retired at about 62. The longevity of most people in the world is increasing dramatically. So we have to adapt what kids are able to do. If they go into the workforce and think the same way all the time, they will become extinct. Let me give you an example. Right now, in China, they are working on a delivery system that will need 0 people. It's very much like Amazon. It used to employ over 500 people. Currently, it employs 10 people. Because 10 people still have to look at the packages. A scanner scans it. It drops the package into a chute. The chute then goes into a bin, and somebody still has to tell it where to go, into an automobile. They are working on a system that the conveyor belt will not only sort the boxes, they will bring them into individual trucks and stack the truck mechanically, no human being. And you've heard what Google is doing, and that is creating driverless cars. So at some point, those trucks will be driverless. That's the workforce that we have to get ready, or they will be extinct and out of jobs. So that's one of the big ones. So let's take a look down. If you take a look at all those pieces, some of you said it, social intelligence, cross-cultural competency. At the school that I'm in, currently, we are blessed because we have, the video says over 40, currently we have 54 nations that are first generation in our building. We celebrate that culture and learn from that culture. And yes, we have Romanians in our school. Yes. So the Romanian flag is hanging in our cafeteria. Every country is hanging. However, we still are isolated. We are isolated on our campus. We have to teach our kids to be global thinkers, or they will become extinct. In Romania, it's a good thing that some students look elsewhere to go to school, and it is a blessing that young ones are coming back. And that's what Romania needs, is the young people to come back to make a difference, or stay here and go to the university. We won't read all of those to you, but that's for your resource to know what the workforce is looking for. Next, let's look at the skills. And I want to show you the difference. And then we're going to take a little break so we can get some water. Adults are the worst. Educational theory says never talk to children more than 50 minutes. And what do we do as adults? We talk to you all day. And when I'm in professional development, that's what they do. So give us about 5 more minutes and we'll take a toilet break and a water break. So we have this handout for you as well. In this handout, we show you the skills that are needed in 2015 and how it's changed in 5 years. Some of them will stay the same. It is imperative. It was imperative in 2015, and it will be imperative in 2020 to be complex problem solvers. Not doing a math problem that was given to them. Complex problems. The complex problems of, okay, we have global warming going on, and it's changing the environment. How do we adapt to do that? Critical thinking in 2020 is the second most important skill, where in 2015 it was coordinating with others. In the difference in the two, they say coordinating with others is going to be a skill that they bring into 2020 with them. So we're not going to rank it as high. Creativity is the second one. They have to start thinking out of the box. Another handout we gave you is the definitions of all these terms in 2020. And it's also, go to the next slide, I'll show you those. The next in 2020 will be people management, then coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and a huge difference from 2015 is cognitive flexibility. Who can tell me what cognitive flexibility is?
To be able to switch from one subject to the other.
Very good. To be cognitively flexible is to switch from one idea to another idea, or one subject to another subject. And we have to train our kids to do that, because they're not trained in that way. When they're in your math class, they are focused on math at that time. Then they leave, and then they're focused on Romanian. And we have to blend it together. I will not make you do what Robin Williams did. However, when I was in the classroom, I did this a lot, especially with some of the struggling learners who could not pay attention, like me in the classroom. In America, we had desks that were not tables like this, so individual desks like you have in your classroom. I was a little younger then, but I would walk on their desks. And they would pay attention because they were ready for me to fall. But it also made me not be the dictator in the room. I couldn't write on the board if I was walking on the desk. So then they would have to take ownership of the teaching. And I was just the facilitator. But just doing this, look what you did, in a matter of seconds, not saying that everybody has to stand on desks, but it does give you a different perspective of life. And if students do that, look at a different perspective of the way we're teaching and why we're teaching it, and giving them the reason, not just because the government told me I have to teach you this. In America, we have the same thing. We have tests that we have to give our kids, and we're rated on those tests. And the kids are rated on those tests. And then they have to take a university test. In America, we call it the ACT and the SAT. But we embed those things in the classroom, and we tell kids, why do you have to learn this? It's because this is what you're going to need in the future. But we need to take those standards that we test them on and link them to the skills that they need for 2020. That's what they're interested in. They learn more from Google and TED Talks and YouTube than they do us. Anytime I was driving here, okay, and I wanted to know how many square meters were in an acre, because in Romania you talk square meters. In America we talk acres. And I used my phone. Would you throw me my phone? Whoa! See, I almost did it, didn't I? Okay? So this is what kids do today, and this is what I do. Okay, Google, tell me how many square meters are in an acre.
1 acre equals 4,046.856 square meters.
That fast. That's what our kids are used to. The generation we're teaching are called Generation Z. How many millennials do we have in the room? Raise your hand if you're a millennial. You're not all baby boomers.
That's an American term, I think.
It may be an American term.
Yeah.
Or Gen X's. There was millennials and Gen X's. There were baby boomers. I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers. But today's world is Gen Zs. We know Gen Zs think differently because of this machine right here. This phone, when I was in the United States military, the memory in this phone and the speed in this phone would take up this entire room in a computer. And that's the computer I worked on 35 years ago in the United States Air Force. The kids know that they can access that information, and they can manipulate 5 screens at a time. 5 screens. So, if they're able to do that, we shouldn't punish them for doing it. We should embrace it and allow them to start learning these skills. I've linked this page, so click on that now. If you go to the presentation that Andrew sent you, you don't have to do that right now. we'll make it viewable, and then there'll be definitions. Let's go to the next slide. In addition, we put in each skill that they need in 2020 and the definition. Go back to complex. Complex problem solving. Complex problem solving are questions or issues that cannot be answered through simple, logical procedures. And typically, as a math teacher, that's what we did. Oh, I used to not bend my knees. You see that dismount? Nominee, Nadia Comaneci would not be proud of that.
Simone Biles, yeah.
Simone, yes.
Yeah, she wouldn't be proud.
Now, it would have been really funny because my knees did buckle.
Yeah.
Because I'm older than I was when I taught. But what we do in the classroom is we give them step-by-step procedures on how to solve problems. We have to change that a little bit. Yeah. Critical thinking. And again, we're not going to read these to you because we're all intelligent people in this room. But it is thinking in a clear, the big one is open-minded and informed by evidence. Having the students find the evidence. And what we can do a lot in the classroom is, we're going to teach this item. Why do we need to learn it? Let them find the evidence. I tell the teachers in America, in our high school, how many math teachers do we have in the room? Raise your hand. Math teachers. One math teacher? Yes. God bless you. In our school, we have 140 teachers. And in the staff meeting, I will tell people how important our jobs are to connect with kids. And I say, how many of you, let's see you sign a hand. Please raise your hand, even if you don't know it, okay? How many of you know what the quadratic formula is? Raise your hand. Quadratic, you all learned it! Do you know what the quadratic formula is? Is it a different term? How do you solve a quadratic equation in mathematics? You know? Okay, this is what the quadratic formula is. This is what the quadratic formula is. I'll write it down. Quadratic formula is this. There may be a different term in Romanian. So if I asked you, go ahead. Don't understand? Okay. You know this? Okay. What is it called in Romanian? How many know that? How many knew this equation? Raise your hand. Okay. This, you probably learned and used it all through your math career.
It's minus.
Yeah, it's minus B. Minus B. I don't like to be negative. That's why I didn't put it. So my point is this. As math teachers, we think that is essential to learning mathematics. Essential. You all study math in high school and in college, yet you don't know it. But if I ask you a question, whether it's in Romanian or in American, and said, what's the quadratic formula? Okay, I'll try it.
Ecuația
Ecuația de
gradul
gradul
2.
Creative thinking, probably the most important item. Most people think that the only people that have to be creative are artists or writers. We have to be creative in technology, and in mathematics, and in physics, and in English, and in Romanian. We have to get creative. Not only do they have to be creative in how they think, but they have to be creative in how they're taught and what they do in the classroom. They have to start developing their mind because their bosses were going to say, we have this major problem. Do you know what a VCR tape is? A VCR tape? In America, we had stores that sold VCR tapes. And the bosses came to them and said, we have a problem. We have a company called Netflix that's going to take and put videos online. And that company called Blockbuster said, that's silly. We will always have stores. Do you know how many Blockbuster stores there are today? 0. And 5 years ago, they were all over. So they have to be creative on how do you change the market? And how do you change the way you think? People management is the key in companies. Because people management, young adults are going to have to work with others, but it's more than working with others. It's being able to manage a group of team members. And that is to attract. And they're starting younger and younger and younger. My nephew received his PhD from Yale 3 years ago. He's studying at an institute in Boston, Massachusetts, and he's doing cancer research. He's only 27, 28, and he is the lead manager for the company because the people before him do not do people management very well. So the young people that we have in the classroom, we have to teach them people management. The only reason that I feel comfortable in a principal role is because I used to be in the hotel business. And in the hotel business, it's very similar to being a principal. Because if the toilet's clogged and somebody can't unclog it, guess who has to do it? The manager. Coordinating with others. It's different than people management. Coordinating with others. They will work in teams. They will all work in teams. You see that in the organization of Aspire. They have a leadership team. And they share responsibilities. And they don't have egos. And they work together. And they're servant leaders. They serve. They serve each other. They serve you. They serve me. And that's the way the workforce is today. As educators, we walk into schools and we shut our door and we have 30 of the brightest smiling people that we know. And those are our students. And we can keep doing what we've always done. And someday they're going to call us Blockbuster if we don't watch it. And Andrew will talk about that in a little bit. We have to teach kids how to coordinate with each other and do group work. In the consulting I used to do for manufacturers, the vice presidents of engineering said the weakest skill college graduates come to us with is how to work in a team and how to do public speaking. Emotional intelligence. Students need to know how people feel. How people feel. There are a couple good books. Write these down. They're not in the presentation. There is one book, and I'm sure it can be translated, The 5 Love Languages. You know that? Okay. 5 love languages. 5 love languages is good for any relationship, or there's also the 5 love languages in an organization. So you understand how people in your organization feel. But the biggest piece that we have to understand is empathy. We struggle sometimes in education because we teach to the best kid, and we think every kid comes from a perfect home with food on the table, with a clean bed to sleep in. In our school, we have almost 20% poor children that they come to school to eat, and we feed them. and we find resources to give them school supplies. Now, a lot of our students are rich. So to make that difference and empathy of what they're going through. I'll give you a personal story. My oldest son was in school, and we did an assembly. And kids think they're the only one. We did an assembly where kids were working in teams and they were sharing, and they challenged them. How many of you have a parent with a drinking problem? How many of you have they didn't say parent, they said somebody you know, and they would step across the line. How many of you have experienced or know somebody that experienced domestic violence? Step across the line. How many of you experience somebody that has drug issues? Step across the line. In America, that is huge right now. We have a heroin problem that is scary. So my son was there. Unfortunately, he comes from a broken home. He thought he was the only one whose parents went through a divorce. And they said, how many of you have parents that have divorced? And he was scared. He didn't want to cross the line. So he kind of closed his eyes and said, he'll just pretend. He opened his eyes, and there were over half the kids stepped across the line. He came into my office. I was the principal of the school. He came into his office. He was crying. He said, Dad, I thought I was the only one. But it's that empathy of knowing where kids came from. And if you saw him, you would never think that he came from a broken home. But that happens to a lot of kids. So we have to be empathetic with them. And that's that emotional intelligence. And then how do you manage those emotions? And teaching them how to manage the emotions. In some schools, some students, I know it doesn't happen in Romania, but some students get angry. It doesn't happen in Romania, right? But it's our jobs. It is our job to teach them how to manage those emotions. And some of it is just understanding. Yes, we all have to have expectations. But it's telling them that they're not alone and understand and how to work through those issues. You see, you're the role model that some of them, you're the only role model some of them have. Some of them, their role model, when they have stress, they react in anger. Throw things, yell, scream, and then they can do that at school because they think it's normal. So we have to help them with managing those emotions. Judgment and decision making, it's pretty simple. You will see kids sit around a table and nobody wants to make a decision. You can watch adults do that. Where are we going to lunch? I don't know. I don't care. Where do you want to go to lunch? I don't care. Where do you want to go to lunch? And it takes them an hour to make that decision if they're going to go to lunch. We have to help kids with that. Service orientation. A lot of the future jobs are service oriented. Even if they're not now, they will be service oriented. Remember, technology will take over most of the jobs that we currently know. But some key items in that service orientation: respect, appreciation, partner, and everybody needs to be important. Those are our clients. In our school, we teach or inform or encourage teachers that we have two sets of clients. Students are our clients, and parents are our clients. And we have to fully believe that we have to take care of our clients. And we teach customer service to those clients. And we tell them how valued they are. Negotiation. I saw a cartoon just last night, and I was reading, and I wasn't watching a cartoon. But I saw a cartoon written out, and it was two people standing and looking on the floor at two numbers. This person, there was one number written on the floor, and there were two people on both ends. This person was looking at a number 9. This person, what were they looking at? 6. It says, Just because you think you're right doesn't mean I'm wrong. Right? So that is negotiation. Negotiation should be win-win. It doesn't have to be win-lose. And when we're in the classroom, what usually happens when a student tries to negotiate with us? There's a winner and there's a loser. There can be win-win. It can be. Not all the time, but we need to teach them. Remember, we're the role model. And some of the skills that we're going to teach them for 2020 are in our actions, the way we treat them. And some of the things we're going to teach them for the skills of 2020 are our actions to our colleagues. You know that colleague that doesn't work very hard, that complains about kids, that complains about the principal? That's easy to do. But it's how we react to them. And how we model our behavior will teach them what kind of worker they're going to be in 2020. We tell the teachers at our school, if they're coming in to school or their classroom late, they're telling kids, it's okay. It's okay to come in late. And then the kids will believe that's how adults work. Cognitive flexibility. This is the hard one. The human ability to adapt the cognitive processing strategies to face new and unexpected conditions in the environment. The big thing you have to remember is, it's how to expect the unexpected. When I was in school, I can tell you when I was in the 11th grade, I worked as a janitor in a nursing home from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every night and signed the paycheck to my father to help put food on the table. In summer jobs. So the engagement and making them feel successful at school is imperative. Or it's easy to say, I'm done. Will you capture all of them? Maybe not. But if you capture one, and then two, that's huge. And it starts with personalized learning, continues with engagement, and the big one is the difference in ability. How do you do it? You have these national tests. Students are taking 16 courses. I have to teach it. So you don't understand, I'm sorry, but he does, so we're going to teach him. And this person just gets left in the dust. So what we have to do, and what Andrew's going to show you, is how do you, we call it differentiate, how we can differentiate, monitor the success of every student, and challenge every student. So guess what? There may be days, you know you don't understand it. We're not going to say that out loud, but we're going to make you feel good and say, you know what? You both are really bright. Can you help each other today and work together? Now you're helping him because as teachers, I'm going to pick on the math teacher because I was a math teacher, okay? Did you really understand math before you started teaching math? Really understand it? No. No. You really learn it when you teach it. You really learn it when you teach it. So why don't we let the kids teach it? That's when they have the aha moment. When I taught calculus, I didn't understand the theory of calculus. And I would pray. Nobody asked me. And I thought, if they ask me, I'm in trouble. And I had a student, his name was Nitin Sakar. Nitin Sakar. He was from India. Smartest student I've ever known. I would teach a subject. I would teach something. And he would say, but Mr. Mater, why? It's not important now. What do you mean it's not important? A student asks me why, and I say it's not important. That's crazy. But I was afraid because I didn't know. But then I said to him, I don't know. Help me. So he came in after school, and we sat down, and we put the theory on the board, and I said, why do you think they went this way? And he would say, well, I think this. And then it was, oh my gosh, that's why I teach it that way. It was a light bulb moment for me. He taught me how to teach math. He learned more about math, now he's a mathematician, because he was helping others in the classroom as well. And we can all use that skill. But that is personalized supporting. And each student needs to be challenged. That's a tricky one. Because a lot of us think they need to be challenged, so I'm going to set my expectations here for everyone. If somebody doesn't understand, they're struggling to understand it here. I'm not saying lower our expectations, but we have to do it differently. The best interview question, if anybody is ever in a position to hire teachers. In America, we're lucky. I interview and hire teachers in our building. Every teacher I interview, I ask this question. A student fails your class. Is it the teacher's fault or the student's fault? Teachers? Both? Both? Depends. Here's the answer we want to be in our heart. It depends. The goal is to set my expectations up here. And it's kind of like a pole vaulter or a high jumper. Here's the bar. I want you to get across it. Every kid will jump across the bar differently. It doesn't matter how they jump across the bar, as long as they jump across the bar. You may need some help jumping across the bar, where you may just high jump it. You may need a pole. So that's the difference. And that is being challenged. So it depends. Failure is not true failure. Failure can be a huge learning moment. But in education, we have a bad taste in our mouth for failure. Don't we? Because every time we assess kids or test them, we count it as a grade. Every time you test a kid, you count it as a grade? Raise your hand. Every time, if I'm going to give them a test, I'm going to grade it for a grade.
Assess with a mark?
With a mark?
Yeah, with the mark.
Yep. Not all the time? It depends? Good, good. In America, sometimes we have teachers that every time students do work, they grade it. Students need practice. They need to know how they're doing. Andrew will talk a little bit about that. And in America, there is a term, we call it informal assessment or informative assessment. It informs us how the students are doing before we test them. We know when we can challenge them and when we can't. So when we give them an informative assessment or an informal assessment, and they fail, sometimes that's good. But it doesn't hurt them. We learn how they are learning, and we learn how to teach them. If you want some good reading, we did a book study at our high school. It's called Blended. It is using disruptive innovation. We said, you know what, let's do a book study with our teachers. If we can get 3 department supervisors and 10 teachers, we can make a difference. We rolled it out to the staff. Remember, we have about 140 teachers. I had to buy 125 books. And teachers wanted to read it and do a book study. It is uncomfortable, but it will show you what's going to happen in the near future. A colleague of ours is creating a city outside of Kalush. And in that city, the center of the city will be a school that we're designing. The new school will have collaborative workspaces. Remember what schools used to look like. Straight rows. In America, a lot of classrooms are still straight rows. We're going to have collaborative workspaces in the new schools. Student-teacher relationship will be the #1 key. The new school will use content mastery, one-to-one, small groups, and project-based. How are we going to do that? We're going to create a culture that is critical using blended learning in a blended classroom. We're going to have multi-use common areas, comfortable classrooms, and we're going to have very creative places that students can learn. Even in hallways, students can learn.
Or out there.
The key in the school will be respect and reward good teaching. Respect and reward good teaching. Hopefully, more income, more aides, closer relationships, and time to observe. Time to observe other teachers, and time to observe students. Content mastery. How will we know that they have content mastery? We have several different learning mechanisms that we will use. We want teachers to be facilitators and not masters of all knowledge. Right? If in some schools, you know that teachers are the sage on the stage, not the guide on the side. In this school, the teacher will be the guide on the side. And students will be at their own pace, guiding their own learning. We'll use some Khan Academy information. We will use Summit Learning. We'll use teacher-authored items. We'll use mechanisms where teachers can author their own curriculum that's driven by technology. The one-on-one is key. Students can come in, they'll work using a blended approach. We will know if they understand it. If they don't, that's when the teacher steps in and will help them. Teachers will be able to build better relationships with students because they're not speaking to 30 at the same time. All 30 don't need help. Maybe 4 need help. We'll talk to them. There'll be check-in points where teachers are checking in with the kids, like we do in business. And they have appointments with teachers. How you doing? Where are you going? Where you've been? And how are you going to get there? Those are going to be some key components in this new design. Small group. We will have places where teachers and kids can go and help each other. The primary focus is where kids are helping kids and working on project-based learning. After we know the content mastery is there, it will be project-based. There's a farm that will be placed in the new city. There'll be a lot of information and learning going on in the farm. We know that monitoring the progress of students will be using Mastery Connect. We know for sure that that's one area that we'll be utilizing. We also know that in this school it will be a growth path. Currently, Andrew is spearheading a movement at Sycamore High School that it will be a school within a school. We'll still have our traditional high school for now. But we will take a section of the building and we'll knock down some walls and put in some new furniture, and we will have 150 kids, 5 teachers, 5 aides, and they will use this platform of expanding their achievement and educational opportunities, both high-level and low-level students, so that students that may not be achieving at the top, they will be able to get the needed help both on the computer and with teachers that they need to catch them up to everybody else. So we know that those models are working. There's a lot of places that are doing it. And we are going to use best practice to implement in this area. So we're really excited about what we're going to do at Sycamore. We're really excited about the opportunity of what's going to happen outside of Cluj. When both places are going, the ultimate goal is the group projects will be American students and Romanian students working together, solving real-world problems. Remember, Romanian students are really, really smart, and we have a lot of problems on our campus that we need help with.
We need some help with math.
So those students can be working on problems and thinking outside the box of solving problems that we need help on our campus. Same thing in Romania. So that's exciting. When you leave here, Andrew has some business cards. You have our contact information. My business cards are here. If this type of thing, this new school thing, would spark your interest and you want to learn more, I have a few business cards from our associate, Don Lothrop. You're welcome to grab one of his business cards, contact him directly, or grab mine, contact me, and we will collaborate and see if you want to help change delivery in what a traditional school would look like. We really want collaboration with you. Please use our contact information. Send us stuff. Tell us how it's going. If you have questions or you want to collaborate with an English teacher in our high school, or a classroom full of English teachers, or a classroom full of math teachers, that's really the partnership that we're looking for. And really help each other through everything. The first thing I need somebody to do is email me a picture of me standing on the desk. Okay? I know somebody took a picture of that. So that way I can say it's back to the old game. So thank you. We really enjoyed the day. I know we kept getting
Super long, way long, but
we will be around.
thank you.